This is the Amazon. Shocking, isn't it? I bet most of you were expecting to see a picture full of giant trees and a dense forest. But this is the reality. This is what is happening now. A fragmented landscape full of soy plantations, pasture, and just some forest patches scattered around. But you might be wondering why I'm telling you this. Well, these forest patches that you see here in the picture might disappear quite soon as they are subject to intense deforestation pressure. But if I'm in England, why do I have to bother about what happens in the Brazilian Amazon? Well, forests, including the Brazilian Amazon, they are critical to the survival of every living thing on the planet. They regulate the weather, they absorb greenhouse emissions, not to mention they are home for many species of animals and plants. With my work, what I really want to understand is what can contribute to the permanence or disappearance of these forest patches. Brazil has a strategy that, if well implemented, can contribute to avoid deforestation of an area equivalent to France and Germany altogether. Let me explain better. Going back to the picture again, I like you to imagine that the bottom right area is owned by John and the left is owned by Mary. The Brazilian government told both these farmers that they were allowed to deforest only 0.5% of their land to plant whatever they like, as long as they kept the other half as a standing forest. John didn't properly follow this rule and ended up deforesting a bit more, whereas Mary gave up opening all she could and instead opened just 30%. Now, this generated some sort of unbalanced situation in which one deforested 20% more and the other deforested 20% less. In an attempt to solve this problem, Brazil created a scheme that was trying to make the situation a bit more fairer, both economically and environmentally. John, who is in liability with the law, has the option to compensate his forest deficit in a neighboring farm, for example, Mary's, by paying her some sort of allowance to keep her forest standing. Now imagine that in the Brazilian Amazon, there are roughly 150,000 Johns and 150,000 Marys. By interviewing some of the Johns and Marys, I want to understand what would be their motivations to participate in this scheme and for what price. Once I have this price, I want to map its variation across different farms to actually see if this market has potential to conserve forests at a large scale. By the end of my study, I hope that I can inform policymakers how to come up with better forestry rules and how to engage farmers in conservation schemes that they can really commit to, because they are the real decision makers and the future of the Amazon are in their hands.